Hi, everybody, and welcome. My name is Julie Mann. I am a professional network marketer. I'm an actor and I'm also an EFT practitioner. And I'm really delighted because today I'm talking to Dr. Sheila Stirling, who is founder of True Life Solutions. Hi, Sheila.
Hello, and thank you so much for having me.
Good to
I'm
see
happy to be here. Yeah, it's wonderful to see you.
you. What a backdrop.
Yes, my favorite place in the world, Yosemite. So I have a giant photo of one of the waterfalls in Yosemite where I go every year.
Love it. Hey, listen, I know, Sheila, that you've got so many talents, haven't you? As well as being a blood specialist, you're a Reiki master, you're a holodynamics advocate, a kinesiologist, a life coach, an educator, a speaker, and an author, which, you do everything. So really, I'm curious to know where your passion for total health came from. Was it that you grew up in a household where your parents were, absolutely instilling the importance of great health?
Well, actually, that's a great question. Thank you. And I actually grew up in a home where, well, my father was a champion swimmer and diver. He actually is the one who gave Johnny Weissmuller the role of Tarzan. Actually, they were swimming mates, and they used to dive off these big cliffs together. So my father was always a big advocate, although health and wellness in the 50s and 60s wasn't really big, meat and potatoes and things like that. We ate a little differently. So I come from a family and a background where everybody had high blood pressure, heart disease, diabetes. I'm actually the only one in my family who doesn't have it. So I came from a family where it was always, please don't upset your dad because he's not feeling well, or things like that. And I think I was really triggered because I think, as I mentioned once before, that I actually drowned when I was 5, which sort of opened me up. But from that point on, I began to look a little deeper. I know that sounds crazy because I was just a child, but I began to sort of back up and look at what was going on around me. And I became interested in health and wellness. I used to heal animals, little animals, when I was like 5 and 6 and 7. And so I was always interested in it. And as going through school, I wanted to become actually a veterinarian at first. But so I think I've always had that. I've always felt that, that each one of us actually are healers. We maybe just haven't discovered it yet. And so my personal belief is, that we are miraculous. Our bodies were meant to heal themselves, and the body wants to be well. So I think that's where I started, is way back when.
Wow. Well, I didn't start that early for sure, but certainly I'm in agreement with you about the fact that we are able to heal our own bodies. So I know you've got an 8-week program. It's an 8 weeks to wellness program that you say is unique and profound. And you actually say chaos to clarity, staying 30 till you're 90, and living your greatest dreams now, which sounds amazing. Who doesn't want that, to feel like they're 30 and have the wisdom of a 90-year-old? I mean, that's just, probably the best you could do. But do you find that there is a lot of resistance to the idea that, it is possible for certain people?
I think that rather than resistance, it's just not knowing. I have, people that come to me and the first thing they say is, oh, I have bad knees, or I have this. And I'm like, stop. You don't have bad knees. You have amazing knees that have been holding you up for the last 60 years, for heaven's sakes. Start talking to your body. You have 100 trillion cells in your body, and every cell listens. It's kind of like the 100th monkey. If you keep saying something, eventually it comes to be so, because thoughts really are things. So that's the only kind of resistance. Sometimes people look at me like, is she kidding, or does she really want me to talk to my knees, and I'm serious. Yeah. So I think that as far as resistance, a lot of people feel that it's not possible. It's like, how could I've been to every doctor, and I'm diabetic, and this is happening, is it just part of my aging? And I'm like, stop. No, it's not. The motto of my company is stay 30 to your 90. I mean, I'm 70 and I couldn't go through all the things that I've been through, including been to the other side a couple of times, you know, knocked off the earth in some horrific accidents. If I can do it, I feel that anybody can do it. It's just a matter, you know, we're like a 10,000 piece puzzle. So the more pieces of the puzzle you can put together, the clearer it becomes your path to wellness and your path to health. I believe, and I know, I just happen to have a lot of the pieces. So I want to share that. I want people, we can actually change the blood in 8 weeks. So a lot of times, you don't have to be diabetic, it's all kinds of things, but or nothing at all. You can be perfectly healthy. And a lot of people I've had, you know, women especially come to me like, I'm turning 65 and I want to be healthy. What do? I put on 10 pounds, I can't get it off. So the programs that I have are for everybody. Or if anyone who is interested in the motto of, you know, waking up every morning, not in pain, knowing how to stretch the body and get everything working, and going out into the world knowing that every day you can be improving and feeling better and better and better. And that's really a key point, because our belief system, our perception really is kind of a guide in our life. Our perception of life is our life. So that's the toughest part when you say chaos to clarity, is having people over this 8 weeks believing, getting to believe. But on the 8 week program, because I have other programs as well, but the 8 week program in particular, as we go through, nothing's left to chance. So as we go through not only when to eat, what to eat, it's not just food. Certain things, you need certain herbs, certain teas. It's a whole bunch of different things. But usually people within the first couple of weeks say, something's happening. I'm changing. They call me up, and you know, we have Zoom calls, of course, and they're like, I don't have indigestion anymore. What happened? I've been trying to get rid of it for 20 years. You know, just things like that. So they get a glimmer of hope that yes, I can do this. And by the end of 8 weeks, it's like, I can't believe it. You know, here we are, and my symptoms are gone and I'm feeling better. And then, you know, once you have a pathway, once you have something in front of you that says, this is what you personally need to do to keep healthy and wealthy and wise for the next 90 years, it's a lot easier. And if something happens, you have a reference to go back to. Okay, how am I supposed to deal with this? So, and then I'm always here as well.
Amazing. I actually imagine that there are a lot of people still reeling from the fact that you've said you're in your 70s. I mean, honestly,
I know myself. You know, I talked to my daughter. I have a daughter and she's 47. I'm like, how could you be 47? I'm like, not even 47 yet. And actually, I think I have more energy or whatever. She's, you know, of course, sometimes your children don't listen to you all the time, right? But, you know, yeah, she has things, and I'm like, well, why don't you just, and she's, oh, mom. And I'm like, okay, I'm not saying anything, but, you know, and then once in a while she'll say, how can you get up at like 5 a.m? It's like midnight, you're still going. And I'm like, because we are miraculous, our bodies are miraculous. So we need to acknowledge that and know that we have everything. We were put everything inside to self-heal. We were actually meant to self-heal. So with the proper tools and the proper information and education, all these pieces start to come together, and it's like, oh, I see. So it's exciting.
Yeah, such a refreshing and inspiring way of looking at it. Absolutely. So I know you've touched a little bit on diabetes and your family, and I know that you have a special interest in diabetes. And I know that you actually say that you can tell from your tests that someone will get diabetes if they carry on doing what they're doing long before, you know, they're actually diagnosed with it.
Well, yeah, with live blood analysis, and of course, we're not allowed to say that we see anything or cure anything. We're not allowed to say anything like that. But what I can tell you is that taking one drop of blood and putting it under a micron microscope, of which I am certified, and I also have a 4-week course that teaches, certifies that. When you do that, you can see so many things. In other words, if you have fasted for 4 hours after eating a good sized meal, you shouldn't have a bunch of undigested sugar floating around your bloodstream. And if you do, and many people do, I can see not only by the amount of sugar they have in their bloodstream, but the amount of fungus, the amount of bacteria, are there cells, is the hemoglobin in the cells actually able to give oxygen and hydration to every cell and tissue in the body. So we can see a lot of things. That's really, people say, well, you have to heal on a cellular level. Well, that's it. That's why I became a microscopist, or a live blood analysis, nutritional analysis, person, because that's where it all begins. It begins in our cells, and it's a whole other world in there. So when you actually be able to sit and look at your cells, and I point things out. So if you have the sugar, well, yeah, but my sugar is fine. My blood tests all say I'm great. I'm like, well, great. Maybe you are right now. And there's certain things that you can look at. If you're not digesting proteins properly, that's also a clue that down the road, that's one of the beginning things that the body starts to break down when you're pre-diabetic, metabolic syndrome, or headed that way. So there's just a plethora of things that we can see in the blood that gives a warning to many things besides diabetes, but specifically diabetes is pretty easy to spot. So, yeah.
Is actually discovering that, Sheila, make a difference to your client? And what happens? What happens next after saying?
Well, I think it makes a tremendous difference, because I mean, I've had people come in and say, well, I've been a vegan for 20 years. My blood is going to look great. And I'm like, well, fabulous. Let's look at it. And then we put it up, and I have a big screen, and we look at it, and they're like, that's not my blood. I mean, there's fungus and bacteria and spicules and all these other things. And they're like, well, that's not my blood. I'm like, well, yes, it is. We just took it from your finger, and you watched me. This is you. And they might, because of their blood type or something, or because of when our bodies are pretty specific, we just don't realize it. We just put food in, we're hungry, we're not hungry, we grab a donut, or we grab we put different things in, and we don't think sometimes. And just because something has a label on it, oh, if you're this, you're going to be healthy, or if you eat that, doesn't mean it's necessarily true for everybody. So you have to know how your own body, everybody is different. Every single person is different. So just having the knowledge of how your body functions properly is very, very important. And yeah, people are kind of amazed sometimes. And I always give, of course, recommendations. We take pictures during this, and I send a picture with a full report, and then it's their choice. I mean, obviously I have these programs that go on 4 or 5 times a year. And if they want to join, great. If they don't, I'm happy to give them the information, and let them try themselves, whatever it is that you can do. I often have people that, come back 6 months later and says, well, okay, I did this and I'm feeling a little better, but I want more. And I'm like, okay, if you're ready, let's do it. So, it's great.
Right. Yeah. So obviously, Sheila, we know that diabetes is a worldwide problem, isn't it? And I was actually looking at some statistics for the UK, and it says if nothing changes, more than 5 million people will have diabetes in the UK by 2020. Around 90% of people with diabetes have type 2 diabetes. Around 8% of people with diabetes have type 1 diabetes. So if there's someone watching, Sheila, and they have a history of diabetes in their family, what advice would you give them? It's not actually showing up yet, but they've got a history of it in the family. What would you say?
Well, okay. And I want to differentiate. Actually, type 1 and type 2 are actually 2 different things. Type 1 is that, the pancreas isn't functioning properly and not putting out any of the hormones. And so that's a little bit different. they are making beautiful headway on that. I deal mostly with type 2, although if people with type 1 would also sort of do that, then I think it would also help. I would say the biggest thing is it's all about the liver. And so don't do a liver cleanse. I don't believe in cleanses, okay? Just so everybody knows, let me make this statement. When you do a cleanse of any kind, you're taking herbs, you're taking something that causes organs to dump toxins. And where do those toxins go? Those toxins go right through the liver and put a tremendous burden on the liver. What organ actually, people say it's the pancreas, but the organ that the pancreas takes its instruction from is the liver. So if you can do it naturally over an 8-10 week period, you don't shock the body and the body heals itself. And with diabetes, first of all, one of the best things people can do, it's simple. In the morning, when you wake up before you eat breakfast or anything, have a glass of warm water with organic lemon juice in it, and even scrape some of the rind off, because so much of the flavonoids and so much of the things, the healing particles in the lemon are actually in the rind. So that is like number one, because what that does, it kind of wakes the liver up and causes the liver to, make some more good bile, which we want. Eating something bitter. I know that sounds weird, but like I don't eat lettuce. I only eat arugula. I love arugula. If you can find arugula, I mean, they sell bitters in the store, but usually they have alcohol in them, the little tinctures. I don't go with that. Try to stick with foods. But even if you don't like arugula, some people are like, oh my God, it's so bitter, I don't like it. Well, okay, then chew on a couple of leaves, because here's a tip. If you chew on something and you feel your vagus nerve back here, your mouth starts to water, you go, oh my God, that's bitter, but you can feel something happening. That vagus nerve is signaling the liver to produce more bile, some fresh bile. So eating things that are bitter are actually really good for you and can help the liver. So, besides, of course, we all know eating organic is really important in this day and age, because anytime you put something in your mouth that isn't, you have to realize you're eating pesticides and poisons and things that affect you neurologically. It's amazing. Now I think in other parts of the world, I'm in the United States, I think we're the worst what we do to our food. So it's very important that quality matters when it's food. A lot of people say, sometimes, I go shopping with some people that are on my program, and they'll take me shopping with not Zoom, but FaceTime on the phone. And they'll say, look, this broccoli's on sale. They'll hold it up. And I'm like, is it organic? And they're like, well, no, but it's like on sale. I'm like, put the broccoli down, just put it down.
Away from the broccoli.
Yeah, it's like you can't look at that. Just keep going, and anything that you're going to pick up today, it's going to have to be completely organic. And the best is if you can grow it yourself in an organic soil, but not everybody can do that. So those are just a few things I would say is, and especially if you're eating meat or fish or anything. I mean, fish is always going to be organic, but be very careful what you're watching. If you're eating an ocean fish, nowadays it's, most of them have a lot of mercury in it. So we have to be careful, not only how much we eat of it, or, how many times. You don't eat tuna fish every day, because some of that is high mercury. So you almost have to become a scientist. And that's actually one of the things I love about what I do, is that, I've been training and for 30 years, not everybody's going to do that. So,
Quick fix, don't they, Sheila?
Yes, absolutely. And unfortunately, there isn't always a pill for what we're talking about, because what you're doing, can you imagine how powerful if you got all the cells in your body focused and moving in the same direction? You're unstoppable. You're just unstoppable. I don't care what it is that's going on. When you have everything going in that direction, you feel it. You wake up in the morning and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm just so excited for the day. Well, how many people really feel that way these days?
Children do, don't they?
Well, and that's another thing, is to always keep a little bit of that, not childish, but that childlike wonder, to have in your heart. And sometimes it has to be reborn. People look at a flower, they're walking to work or whatever it is, and they're like, whatever, wait a minute, stop. Take a look at that. I know that sounds, I don't know, fantasy, but it's not. Nature is amazing. And if you look at how the tentacles on a tree or in a leaf, even, there's millions of these veins. It's crazy. And the fact that the plant life, we expel CO2. All of the plant life around us breathes in that and then breathes out oxygen so we can breathe in the oxygen. I mean, is that crazy?
It's amazing, isn't it? And actually, that's what I was going to ask you about, the connection between nature and, issues like diabetes and.
Well, absolutely. Well, first of all, most people wear shoes all the time. I know we all do. Okay. And, a number of years ago, this whole craze, you got to earthing. Well, what is that? Well, the fact is that the earth actually is giving off negative ions, which is really good for our bodies, because we live in a concrete world. We live in, there's not that many places. If you did nothing else but take off your shoes and find some natural grass or some sand to it's very healing. And I don't mean esoterically, I mean physically, because your body is exchanging you're uptaking the ions and you're releasing things in the body into the earth that no longer serve you, and the earth will turn it around. So it's the same thing. There is a huge connection. Unfortunately, we've become a little disconnected from nature, but we are it. We're part of it. We are part of everything that's happening. And that's why it's so wonderful and miraculous if you can connect with that, because it helps. And even just knowing the seasons, knowing what to do in each season. And if we have time, I don't know, but I'd love to speak of that, because we're coming into one of those seasons. And I'd love to say a few words of that if we have time.
Yeah, absolutely. I was going to ask you, though, because you've touched on it a little bit, about the mindset. You talked about thoughts becoming things. That's a Mike Dooley saying, isn't it?
Oh, I just love that guy.
Yeah. But, how much does mindset impact, on a tangible level?
Well, on a tangible level, I'll say this. If you're looking for a foundation, your belief system is your foundation. And so people sometimes say, I just don't believe. Well, guess what? It's not going to happen if you don't believe. So sometimes people need proof. And that's why even people who don't believe, I have people come to me and they're like, oh, I've done everything. Nothing's going to work. I'm like, well, then don't do it. Well, yeah, but I want to keep trying. I'm like, okay, then do it. And so when they get a glimpse of things beginning to change, all of a sudden the belief begins to change. And because the cells are beginning to change, instead of like, oh, whatever, it's like, yes, we can. And so it kind of like a light shines on. And I do live by the seasons, and we're coming in to a season. I used to speak actually at big churches or organizations, and because they would tell me that, people in the winter are depressed. And I remember walking into this one place, and there was a lot of people there, and I had this thing I was going to talk about, but everyone was talking about taking drugs for some seasonal, I don't know what they call it, seasonal depression. There's some
disorder. Is it,
it's like a seasonal disorder or something. Yeah. And so I'm like, listen, I'm not talking about what was going to talk about. Everybody sit down, because you have to know this. There's no such thing as a seasonal disorder. We're coming into the winter time. And between now and February 2nd, which is what they call first light, your whole being through the cosmos and through the universe, we are set up to work with the seasons, not against them, but we've become away from that. In the winter time, look at the animals, they hibernate. It is a time that we all kind of go within, but this is the time that we become extremely creative. So this is the time that we might want to write or paint or think about what we're going to do next year, how we're going to change our business, what's going to happen. Put that to good use. The feeling of it's not actually depression. It's cold outside, it's raining, it's snowing, whatever it is. We can't go outside as much. It's like you're being asked to go within and to develop and further what is happening within, so that when the new light comes, you come out in spring. What's spring all about? Spring is about new birth and new businesses and new friendships and all this stuff. If you really back off and look at it, there is a reason for every season. And so I'm a big proponent of that. So thank you for touching on that, because we're actually just coming into winter.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess as well, in terms of eating, I imagine that you'd be suggesting people eat in terms of the season, what seasonally available.
Yes, if you can. I mean, right now we're into the wonderful squash soups, and I have a cookbook, the Vibrant Life cookbook, and I think on my website, I think you can download it. And there's a lot of recipes in there. I mean, my broccoli soup, it's good either cold or hot, but it is delicious. I mean, you can just take that and have that almost as a meal. So, and my butternut squash soup, or there's different things. And who doesn't love pumpkin pie? Well, so there's a recipe in there for organic pumpkin pie as well. So I mean, we want to, that again, not to say that you can't have an orange or two, or depending on your blood type, or lemon should be done all through the year. Because although some people say, well, but it's an acid. Well, guess what? It's only acidic until it gets into your body, and then it's alkalizing to the body. So, I'm a big proponent of that.
It's funny because, this period, with pumpkins and Thanksgiving and, in the States, you're very big on the pumpkin pie. That's not something that we're used to, particularly in the UK. We hollow out the pumpkins, we put the lights in the pumpkins, and we don't actually necessarily, we do eat them, but not to the degree that you do, or make pumpkin pie. So it's not a traditional dish over here. I was actually going to ask you a question, because you talked earlier on about what's really great is an organic lemon with a little bit of zest in hot water when you wake up. I actually take organic cider vinegar, a little drop in hot water. Is that as good?
Well, apple cider vinegar is good, and it's good for your digestion, depending on what's going on down there. But it is good, and it's good for blood sugar as well. Although I don't feel that it takes the place of a natural, organically grown lemon. Apple cider vinegar doesn't have some of the natural components of the fruit that it does. There's all these, different things in the fruit that on a cellular level that work with the body. But apple cider vinegar is good. A lot of people do that, I think, a little bit before they eat.
I have it before breakfast, but actually I think now I'm going to be going for an organic lemon. Thank you very much.
Oh yeah, well, do both. It's not going to.
I could. So how would people find out more about you, Sheila?
Well, they can go to truelife-solutions.com, and that's plural. So it's truelife-solutions.com. My email, I have contact forms on everything. I have a website called Diabetes Gone Naturally. And actually, if you go there, there's like a mini book, I think. If you put your email in or whatever, you're automatically download a 14-page report on health and wellness. You can join my newsletter on truelife-solutions.com. And I have ways to get in touch with me all over the place on all my different websites. And, people in the UK might not want to call me, but I'm happy to have a conversation or Zoom or Skype with anybody. So that would be the main way, or email me. You can email me. I have 36 email addresses. But,
That's
yeah,
just freaky.
it's freaky. It's ridiculous. I don't know how I got that way. But if you can email info at True Life Solutions, Sheila Z at, or Sheila Z at truelife-solutions.com. Or or I also have a Sheila Z Stirling with an I. My name is with an I, like Stirling, Scotland, at gmail.com. So there's a number of ways to get in touch with me. And of course, I do have a LinkedIn account. And find me on Facebook. I have Sheila Z PhD. It's a small site, but it's, whatever. It's on Facebook. And then Sheila Z Stirling. Yeah, join me.
I can put the links underneath this video, can't I?
So thank you.
Really easy for people. So you talked about these blood tests that you do. I mean, how would that, do you only work with people locally? Because they're going to be people watching this from all over the world. So how does that work?
Well, unfortunately, it actually only works if you're sitting right next to me. Okay. And I have had people travel and come and spend a couple of days with me. I have a 3-day program for that. People can actually come, actually stay as a guest in my home. And, it's really an intensive, do the blood and everything else. But wherever you're at, I mean, live blood microscopy, and that's what it's called, or nutritional blood analysis. You can find that, probably in England or anywhere. It's a diagnostic in most countries. In the United States, it is not a diagnostic. So, but if you can get someone to do a test, of course, you're going to be sitting there and get photos. I'm happy to use that as part. People can, email me pictures, and we can have a consultation, things like that. And, and then if they'd like to do one of the programs, that would be great.
So Sheila, what is it that you really, really want the world to know?
Oh, that there is hope, not only hope, but that we're in the middle of, some wonderful positive things, as well as, there's so much going on. And this is a time to really, to take responsibility for your own body, for your own health, your own well-being, because we have to be healthy and strong right now. And staying 30 till you're 90 is a possibility. You're vibrant. You are a miraculous being, and just live it. Really get into it and believe it. Wake up in the morning and look in the mirror and say, you are beautiful. You are miraculous, and start behaving that way, because that's the truth. So.
That's absolutely brilliant. And anyone looking at you will see that you absolutely walk your talk. You're a perfect example of all of that. So what can I say? Dr. Sheila Z Stirling, thank you so very much.
Well, and thank you so much. Have a wonderful day.